Hey, pickers, Mighty Mike picking weeds vintage.
Hello.
It's overcast and it's only going to go to the low 50s on this first day of April. So glad you can join us. My dad is staying with us right now and we're really enjoying his company. He got a new camera and has a new lens he wants to try out. So we're going to do some traveling around looking for some cool things to photograph. But we're also excited about getting this piece appraised. George the Antique Nomad is going to be doing a video chat with us later today, this afternoon at 1:30. And this is a signed Salvador Dali piece. It says EA right here, which I think stands for Artist Proof. And we're going to learn all about it on this edition of Pickin' Weeds Vintage. So glad that you could join us today.
Hello.
Hey, George, happy Friday. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Very good. Nice to see you, and I'm glad this worked out.
Yeah, and actually the quality, me too, the quality is amazing.
It's really good. I'm surprised how Skype has really improved, and I just am finding it's easier to use than some of the other systems and more compatible with other things I'm doing. So hopefully it'll work out.
I mean, you look like you're on NBC television or something, you know what I mean? The lighting's amazing, the camera. Can I introduce you to my dad, Dr. Donald Faust?
Hi, George.
I am very glad to see you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine, thank you.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm excited to see this piece that you have. So how did you get this?
How did I get this? I
Yes.
got that one, I think it was probably in the 1980s. One of my patients, I was a cancer specialist, and one of my patients wanted to thank me for just treating her, and she presented this picture for me, and I thought, well, I'm not much of in the artist category, so I gave it to Mike, and he kept it for me. And
that's great.
now it's time for me anyway to get rid of some of my things, and my my wife went to be with the Lord 2 years ago. This is her birthday today,
Aw.
April
It's my
1st.
sister's birthday today. Some good people came on this day.
Amen.
Right, and so like I said, you go ahead, Mike, and take care of it. And when you're ready to talk to someone else, I'll just be there to sort of lend whatever small part that I have for it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when we found you through Jocelyn, the crazy lamp lady, because we were watching Blue Bus Dave and Jocelyn, and then we got turned onto your channel, and we love it. You're one of our favorites. We watch all of them and stuff. I actually had Dr. Lori from the History Channel. I used to be in radio, and I had her on my show, and I presented it to her. Her schedule's crazy busy, and she said, bring it to a show when I do shows. But then I heard you at the end of one of your episodes, or in the middle of the episode, you inserted, you said, hey, I do appraisals, and I thought, I'm going to email you. And you got back to me the next day. I was like, I would love to have George appraise it.
Well, thank you. That's great. And this is it's a category I like very much and know reasonably well because I spend my winters in St. Petersburg, Florida, and that's where the Salvador Dali Museum is. And it's a long story how it came to be in St. Pete, but the museum expanded about 3 years ago, and it's now the largest Dali museum in the world. And because of that, the museum in his hometown in Spain sent several masterworks that had not been displayed for years because they didn't have the room. And so now the Dali Museum in Florida is actually the biggest and the best display of Dali in the world. So it turns out to be kind of topical. Now, one thing I will say about my appraisals that's a little different from Dr. Lori's is that Dr. Lori, she speaks in terms of, her realm and her world is near the top end of the market, and that's a good place to be if you can get there. It doesn't always translate to what people like you and I might be able to sell something for in our world, depending on timing and how we go about it and what the market is at any given time. She tends to give more like an insurance appraisal value a lot of times, and what I'm going to try to do for you, because I'm hearing from your dad that it's time to maybe let this piece go, is try to give you an idea of recent actual selling prices for these pieces, because there is an active market for them. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
And one of the questions that we had was, you know, because we have an eBay store, I'm a reseller just like you, and should we do that, or should we go to like the Kleinfelter's auction house right down the road here in Lebanon County, or go to Renninger's, or any of the, you know, reputable places here? He actually lives up in the Syracuse, New York area with my sister Donna, so he's visiting us right now, but I know they have auction houses in New York City, as you know, so we're very anxious to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely, and you know, the answer to that may have to do with how fast you want to sell the piece, and if you're going to send it through an auction house, even though you'll have my information and what I think things are selling for, you'll want to get a pre-auction estimate from them if you decide to use an auction house, because they will know their market and they will know whether they have an active market for these pieces, or whether the market for them is soft and it would sell better somewhere else. So you'll definitely want to get their opinion too, if that's how you go about doing it. I have to be truthful, I see a lot of closed sales for pieces in this series on eBay, so I do think it's something you can handle yourself if you choose to do that. And then the question is, what would you price it at, and how would you do it? Would you put it at a fixed price? Would you put it at a starting price with a buy it now option? And we can talk about that a little bit too.
Awesome. And George, are you ready to check out the piece?
Yeah, I'm ready to see it.
Awesome. So I'm not sure how to turn the camera around on Skype, but let me just turn around the, I got the lighting in here. Dad, you want to hold this for a second? I'm going to turn the light down. Just hold it like that. And then...
And I am familiar with the piece too, because like I say, he was really prolific in the time that this particular piece was done. In the late 50s and early 60s, he was probably at the peak of his career, he was a darling of the art world, and he was producing a lot of these. I know that a lot were sold at the Seattle World's Fair in 1962 in their art pavilion, and those typically tend to be the black and white, and they're a little smaller, and you know, they sell for $500 and $600 a piece now. Your piece is better than that, but it is something that we see go fairly often at auction now. I think there were, if I remember right, there was something like either 18 or 26 in this series. It was a fairly large portfolio, and I see the artist proof, and artist proof is definitely something that is desirable, because Dali did something late in his career that we kind of wish he hadn't done. He signed a whole bunch of blanks knowing that he wouldn't be around forever, so that they could print additional printings on those blanks. So the fact that this is an artist proof means that it actually came back to him and went through his hands, and that's important.
Oh, definitely. And then that does, George, that does look like a live signature, and it almost looks like he used a colored pencil. Is that his signature there in the bottom right?
Yeah, that's definitely his signature, and the fact that it's AP means that it is his real signature. So everything about it seems to add up just fine. And as far as values, so I can start with recently completed eBay values, and then we can go from there.
Okay, great. And then...
A little bit of... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, just one more thing. Sorry to interrupt. So under the EA,
Get down.
I just noticed this for the very first time, and we've had this for a while, but now that I have the studio lights on it, the paper is indented, and it looks like it says something there, FHAF or GGH.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
so that's a cartouche from the printer, and
Okay.
that's actually good, because that is also legitimate. That's something that you'll want to show. If you were to sell it yourself, you'll want to definitely mention that and show that up close in the picture, along with a close-up of the signature, and then obviously a picture of the piece itself. And I usually do one in the one with it up close where it's just the image, and then I do one with the frame. And when you're dealing with a better piece of art, I would give measurements of both the image framed and the image, just the plate itself.
Okay.
Because I think that will help your buyer. Now, recent sales of this piece on eBay, and eBay isn't always the best choice, but eBay is a place that we all have access to, and there were several recent sales of this piece and others from this series, and all of them seem to be selling in the $1,200 to $1,450 range as a general price range. I saw a lot of sales $1,250, $1,295 plus shipping in that range. And that would be, to me, because again, that's the most accessible marketplace, to me that's kind of the starting point for these items. If you were to have it in a place where it was, if it was in St. Petersburg, Florida, in a gallery where there's more people who are hot for this and who have been to the museum and are all excited, I would think that you might see closer to the $1,500 to $1,650 range for this piece. And I suspect that if Dr. Lori saw it, that she would probably tell you, because again, she's basing partly on insurance value, which is a higher value, and partly because, she's in an area where she knows the movers and shakers in the art world, and maybe we could get this placed in a particular gallery or a particular auction that specializes and is having an event that's focused on Dali, and that might, with that kind of extra publicity, you might expect a higher price. I suspect she would probably say $2,500. I can't say for sure because I don't know her personally, although I've seen her work before, and I've watched her enough, and I kind of see where her values are relative to what I see in my marketplace, and I suspect that's what she would say. So as far as the question of where to sell it, my feeling is that if you were to put it on eBay yourself, I would try to go towards the top end of that range that I told you, closer to the $1,500 mark. I would put it in your store. I would put it at definitely put it at the top end of the range, and maybe allow people to make offers and decide what you felt was a reasonable offer. And you could even try to push it a little farther, although on eBay, one problem you'll have if you do that is they can go and compare with a bunch of others, and there usually are a few of these available at any given time, because this isn't a small edition. I mean, even though it's an artist proof, there are a lot of them. So you might have trouble with it being in a place where there's a lot of competition. So then the question is, well, can you send it to an auction house where maybe it would have less competition and be focused on that buyer? And I would say that auction houses, that if you have somebody in the area, you mentioned one in particular, and I have to be truthful, I'm not familiar with them. If it's an auction house that really specializes in artist prints, or is having an auction that's really focused on Dali or Dali and other modernist artists, I would think that you would do better in that environment than a general auction house, even if it's a good auction house where it's just one piece amongst the group. I would think you would want to find someplace that's more focused on artist prints. The truth is, most auction houses that do art, if they're doing something where there's a bunch of modern art all being sold at one time, then I think that would be a good place for it to go. But again, if it's just a general auction and it's one piece in the mix, you would want to make sure in any event that you had some sort of a reserve on it, because auctions can be tricky. It can be that two people love it and they go crazy for it, or it can be that it's in with a bunch of other stuff and there's other things in the catalog that for whatever reason are more exciting to the audience that day, or that the person who specifically likes Dali isn't there, and then it ends up selling to a dealer at a wholesale price, and I don't think you would be happy with that. I think you would, in that case, it would have been better off to sell it directly yourself on eBay. So, and again, because these are neat pieces, I really like them, but they're not rare. They're scarce-ish, but they're not rare. It's not like he only did 5 of them and that's all there are in existence. So because of that, if it were me, honestly, I'd probably be most inclined to put it in your eBay store and take your time and wait to sell it that way. Even though eBay's commissions have gone up some, I still think it would be comparable or less than you would find at an auction house. But if you want to test it and also to get additional information on values that are going to be people objectively saying what they see in their market, take information, send it to a few auction houses and ask for pre-auction estimates and see what their level of interest is. And if they say, gosh, we have someone who comes in and buys every Dali print that we get and we are really hungry for them, that might be the place to send it. And if they say, oh yeah, we see those and sure they sell for something and yeah, you can send it to us, that might not be the place. I think you want somebody that's really focused and specialized or very enthused and feels they have a buyer. Otherwise, you're just as capable of finding that buyer as they are.
Wow, that is excellent advice. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, George.
Yeah, and I'm a big Beatles guy, and I know that Dali was friends with John Lennon. There are some there's photographs of the two of them together because he had that crazy mustache. He had the big eyes. You know what I mean? And I didn't know like an Andy Warhol or Keith Haring. Like he's like a pop artist, but like you said, when there's a lot of them, it's not as But the artist proof, like you said, the EA in French, and then that it's signed. When I do promote it on my eBay store, maybe really take like a dozen pictures. Promote that fact that
Take all of, I would say that. I would definitely name drop with Dali because I think younger people are impressed with that. Older people in the art world actually were less impressed with him because he enjoyed his celebrity and his fame in his lifetime. There's pictures of him hanging out at Studio 54 in the late 70s, and he was having a great old time. And I have to be honest, I'm a big fan of his. And I find that really appealing about him. I like artists who made it, were famous in their time, and didn't have to wait to be dead before somebody noticed that they did good work. And I think the fact that he reveled in it is a wonderful thing. But there are some art snobs who say, oh, well, that makes him sort of a crass commercialist, and we don't want that. Well, you know what? They're not going to buy that piece, so who cares? Yeah,
and I also read one last thing. I'll let you go. We appreciate your time. After 1980, and I don't know if it had anything to do with the murder of John Lennon, December 8th, 1980, but I understand he didn't sign stuff in the 80s. It was earlier. Is that true that you said that he signed a lot of proofs early on and just left them blank, or what?
Yes, I think that was in the late 70s he was doing that, and then I think by the 80s he really slowed down and stopped. I mean, he was quite elderly by then, and I think that he was kind of feeble, and he just stopped being. I think he started to live a quieter, more secluded life at that point.
Awesome. Hey, and one final thing. If you ever get to our area, because we're not that far away from Renninger's, we call it Thrifty Row, and it's here in Lebanon County, just over the Berks County line, and there's like about a dozen or so thrift stores all within a few miles. You would get a lot of episodes, and if you needed a guide, I'd be happy to go with you and show them if you're ever in my area.
It would be so fun. I would love to do that, and I actually have reason to travel that way. I have someone in New York I really need to visit who has, I bought things from her last year, and I really need to go that way again. I'm just having the hardest time finding a time to schedule that, so if I get to the area, I would love to meet you, and that would be a lot of fun.
Right back at you, George. Thank you so much, and keep up the great work. We're big fans as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. It's really nice to hear that, and it's really nice to make your acquaintance, and I hope that if this sells for you, that you can take the money and do something nice with your family, or take a trip, or just do something fun with it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, George. We appreciate your working with us, and I have not had any other episodes like this one. So the first time is, the best one, I guess. So we'll go with your wisdom and see how it works out.
Yeah, we watched your Renninger's Adamstown while we had our breakfast, and my dad's like, "Wow!" He's very impressed.
Oh, well, thank you. I sure had a lot of fun doing I really enjoy the business, and I like helping people. And I will say one thing about appraisals. Appraisals are an opinion of value. That's one of the first things they teach you in appraisal school. And so that's why, even though you've got my opinion now, you have some ways to get some other opinions too if you feel that you want them. There are other options out there for you, and I would encourage you to do whatever makes you feel comfortable with the decision you make. But I think you have a nice piece, and I think it will sell.
Thank you, George. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's really good to meet you folks.
You too. Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, that was great.
Yeah.